Welcome back to this 1 Game Creator video tutorial series, where we'll be continuing to cover how to create your very own role-playing game from start to finish using the built-in action RPG template. In this final tutorial, we'll be making magic, adding a new party member, and creating a kill quest, as well as building our game so that others can play it. First, let us begin by making some magic. To do this, click on the Items and Magic button along the main toolbar to open the Items and Magic window. Click on the Add Resource button, and then select the Magic Radio button from the center of the window. Now select Magic from the Area of Equipment drop-down menu directly underneath it. Give your magic an appropriate name. Since we're going to be creating a fireball spell, I'll name mine Fireball. You can click on the large square beside Icon Image to create or import a graphic that will represent the magic when selected. You can also do the same with the holding frames underneath if you want a graphic to be visible on the player when the magic is being held. For this tutorial, I'm going to leave these blank as they aren't required for the magic to work. Select the Logistics and Statistics tab and set the ammo loss per use to 0 as our magic will only consume MP. Change the use time to 0.5 seconds and then set the MP value for cost in statistics to use to 2. Next, click on the Projectile and Melee tab and set the number of projectiles to 1. Set the projectile sprite to Fireball, a pre-made sprite which can be found in the effect folder. Now set the speed to 80, and finally, click on the Result Sprite button and select Explosion from the effect folder. Next, click on the Players and Party Members button along the main toolbar. Then click on the Add button underneath the Magic Progression section and select the Fireball magic we just created. To see the magic in action, test the game and then press the Escape button to bring up the pre-made in-game menu. Then select Equipment, followed by Hero, then Magic, and finally select the Fireball magic from the list to the left. Once selected, continue pressing Escape to exit out of the menu completely. Press the spacebar on your keyboard or Y on your gamepad to use your magic. Before we create our kill quest, let's add a new party member that will accompany the player. To do this, click on the Players and Party Members button along the main toolbar and click on the Add button. Select Character and then give your new party member an appropriate name. I'll name mine Warrior. Untick the Currently in Party checkbox so that they aren't a part of the player's party from the start. Then click on the Edit Actor button and use the settings in the Sprite section to distinguish the new party member from the main player character. Now create a new map, set the map's dimensions to 25 by 20 by 5 and give your map an appropriate name. I'll name mine InMap. Now set My First Map to the left connection, making sure you update My First Map by setting the right connection to InMap. Use the drawing tools to create a small building that will become the inn. Next, create a new actor and select Innkeeper from the NPC folder. Feel free to change its default appearance if it isn't to your liking. By talking to the innkeeper in-game, the player can rest up and replenish any lost health. Now click on the Variables, Switches, Collections and Tables button along the main toolbar, then click on the Edit Global Variables button, select the empty text box underneath variable S, and type Spiders Killed with a default value of 0. Create a second actor inside the inn, this time selecting the Character Actor template, and change its name and appearance to match the party member you created earlier. Then double-click on the Talk To/Activated trigger to open the script editor. Create a comparison branch event with the expression set to the Spiders Killed global variable, the operator set to less than, and the value set to 3. Then create a message box event with an appropriate message that asks if the player would be so kind as to allow this NPC to accompany them on this quest. Use the Choice 1 and Choice 2 text boxes to set a yes and no answer respectively, so that the player can choose to accept the quest or decline it. Doing so will create 2 nodes underneath the message box event, one for yes and another for no. For the yes node, click on the Expand Events button, type Join into the search box, and then double-click on the Join and Leave Party event under the Current Player/Party section. Select Warrior from the member list, and then set the party to Join. Now click on the Expand Events button again, this time typing Exist into the search box, and double-clicking on the Change Existence event under the Actors section. Select this as the actor, and then set the state to non-existent. Click on the Expand Events button again, type Equip into the search box, and double-click on the Equip Item event. Set the actor to Warrior and the Area of Equipment to Weapon. Then click on the Equipment button and select the Hammer. Lastly, set Add Item First to Yes. This will ensure our Warrior has a weapon to fight alongside us with. Now select the Comparison Branch event, and then add a Once Branch event. Next, create a message box event with a surprise thank you message to the player for having already completed the quest. Since the player can choose to enter the cutscene map before accepting this quest, it's possible for them to have already defeated the 3 spiders, so we want to make sure we acknowledge and reward the player accordingly. Add a change money event to reward the player with 500 gold, then click OK to close the script editor. In order for this quest to work properly, we first need to edit the spider actor template to make sure our global variable is updated once they've been defeated. To do this, click on the actor templates button along the main toolbar, select spider under enemy, and then click on the edit base actor button. Then click on the add button underneath the triggers list and double click on the defeated and destroyed trigger. Double click the variable operation event from the quick access panel, set the variable to spiders killed, the operator to add, and the value to 1. Now add a comparison branch event with the expression set to spiders killed, the operator set to greater than or equal to, and the value set to 3. Next, create a second comparison branch event, click on the small use value button besides expression, and type party into the search text box. Now double click on the currently in party use value under the main party/game section. Select warrior and then click OK. Leave the operator as equal and then set the value to join. Then create a message box event that thanks the player for completing the quest. Add a change money event to reward the player with 450 gold. Then click OK to close the script editor. When testing your game, you can switch between party members by pressing either the Q and E keys on your keyboard. You've now successfully completed your first game. In order to share it with others, however, you first need to build it. To do this, click on the Build Game button along the main toolbar. Select Windows Installer to build an exe of your game as an installer that will properly install your game and all of its required components on the player's machine. Then simply click on the Build button and your project will be created. Once installed, you'll be able to play your game without needing 001 Game Creator to be installed. To edit or remove the Startup menu that appears before your game runs, click on the Game Settings button along the main toolbar and select Startup Menu Settings to edit it, or untick the Display Standard Main Menu option underneath the Branding section to remove it completely. This concludes our 5-part series on creating an action RPG from scratch. If you enjoyed this series and would like to see more video tutorials in the future, then please let us know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.